Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, December 10th. I am Julie Barrett. I'm the founder of Conservative Ladies of America, and you are joining us for our monthly podcast with the Grayson County Conservatives. They are a grassroots organization, very similar to the work that Conservative Ladies of America does. We have a lot in common. So without further ado, we're going to have a fun grassroots conservative discussion today. So let's bring Brian and Joy Roberts out and Pastor Zach Poling. Welcome, you guys. I'm so excited to be doing this with you again. And I just have to say, it is so nice to have, I'm so grateful for our friendship because this is it's a really discouraging time to be a conservative. And so it's nice to have friends who are in the fight, trudging through the sewer of American government, with me, and I know our whole team appreciates you guys. So there's a lot to talk about, and just for our audience that's watching, we're going to be pretty off the cuff today, really authentic conversation, talking about we have some different topics that we're going to be hitting on, but really just want to have a discussion about kind of the state of things in our government and our politics, especially in Texas, obviously, because they're in Texas. And, a lot of people from these blue states that are kind of evaluating things and if they should maybe flee these blue states and go to some, conservative safe haven. We're going to be talking about some of the things that's going on in these really red states that's really not very conservative. And I think that it's really a call to action for all Americans, because it doesn't matter where you go. And I can't even call it the left anymore. I really think it's just like the political industrial complex.
Yes.
Is really working so hard to undermine the citizens, really. And so, I know you guys have been seeing a lot of interesting stuff this year. I know you all as an organization worked very hard to get some strong conservatives elected to your state legislature.
Strong.
Yeah.
Strong.
I don't know.
Everybody's strong when they're talking on the campaign trail, right?
Yeah.
They talk a big game. And then there were many policies that were passed this session in Texas that were not very conservative. And it's frustrating for me to see other conservative organizations really championing things like, you pass that school choice bill and championing that as education freedom. And I know we've already talked about that, so we don't need to go in great discussion about that. But, and praising Governor Abbott for that. And, he's talking about the property tax things, but you have to reelect him before he's going to do the property tax reform.
Yeah.
And then, and we'll touch more on this one later, but you guys were one of the 3 states that passed the App Store Accountability Act, which I've been talking a lot about this year. And that was almost unanimously passed in your legislature, except for one Republican in the House, I want to say it was.
Yes, that's correct.
And and all the conservatives are just going along with that. So, how are you guys feeling? What's kind of the state of things? I know, you probably feel a little bit burned when you have supported these candidates and then they go in there and they're advancing really a uniparty agenda.
Well, I have to say, I saw your video yesterday and I was already in bed and I texted it to Brian, the one where you were talking about how you left Washington because it's not safe. And I sent it to Brian and I said, I am more and more feeling like this in Texas. And this is Texas. When we're feeling like this here, that's scary. That's scary for the United States.
It is, because a lot of people will leave places like Washington, which is where we left, for places like Texas and Florida, because they believe that, it's freedom, it's constitution. They're running the government on the Constitution, and I think that's a pretty bold statement, that you feel that fear, being in Texas, for your family. And I mentioned this right before we went live. Miami last night elected a Democrat mayor for the first time since 1998. That says a lot about the Florida GOP, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm very terrified for what Florida looks like post DeSantis. And, we didn't move here because of DeSantis. There were many things that factored into us choosing Florida, but he has been an amazing governor. And I do believe that he's really been the one that's been holding the line. And, his policies are popular with the people, but not the political industrial complex. Right. And so when I saw that last night, those numbers starting to come in, I felt that fear, Joy, I think that you have, and how fragile, our government, our republic really is.
It's good to hear, someone from Florida saying, that DeSantis is doing good things, because I know Abbott is not, and we're from Texas, and Abbott's not doing good things, but I know that the national reputation for Abbott is kind of massaged into something a little bit different than what he really is doing. Yeah, more DeSantis-like, I think, is the national idea of Abbott, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, we always wondered. We were like, is DeSantis good to the conservatives who are there, or is it just that's what we hear? So it is good to hear. At least there's that voice, that one voice. Hopefully he's still able to be a voice when he's no longer governor. But I know it makes a big difference when you're sitting in that chair versus a voice for freedom.
Was Zach? It looked like Zach was going to say something, so I didn't want to pipe in until.
No, it's okay. I was going to say I read a couple of comments online with people saying they hope he moves to Texas, that DeSantis does, and becomes our next governor. That's a pipe dream,
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I think he really loves Florida. I think Florida is very near to his heart. And I do believe that he wants to make sure that Florida is in good hands for the next governor. I'm hopeful that Jay Collins will run, but just in watching, if you just take X, which I think X has turned into this just huge echo chamber that's kind of useless at this point, because we're just talking amongst ourselves, fighting amongst ourselves. And so I don't know if it's how legitimate of a gauge it is on the public, but just watching, we've got Byron Donalds, and then this James Fishback guy that I've never heard of before is running for governor, and potentially Jay Collins, who is our lieutenant governor. And we just got a mailer today from Jay Collins, talking about his accomplishments as lieutenant governor. So I think he's definitely running, but you can already see the establishment versus the conservatives. And we all know the establishment machine will fight hard against the conservative movement, even to the point that, like, you guys witnessed it in your legislative session, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you saw these people that looked like they were going to be strong conservatives probably got gobbled up by the political machine, right?
So quickly.
Certainly.
And I think that's, you talked about being discouraged. That's what's really hard. We stood in the cold and the heat with the signs and knocking doors and didn't sleep, and, up on social media, trying to do things. I dabble in graphic design. I can't tell you how many hours I sat on the computer doing graphic design for these people. And we expected them to get into office and do what they said they were going to do. And they folded before the session even started. We started
Wow.
seeing things. I mean, it was unreal. And so there's not one that didn't fold. Every single one of them.
I think
Wow.
in order to understand kind of what went down here, you have to kind of step back to 2020 and the whole grassroots movement. I don't think there was anybody in the grassroots movement happy with Abbott. No. I mean, the whole thing was about getting rid of Abbott. There was anybody but Abbott campaigns. There was fire Abbott campaigns. There was not a segment of grassroots that was yay Abbott. So it's really, by the time it got 4 years and here we are in 2025 now, and now the same people that were anti-Abbott that ran their campaign completely for 4 years against Abbott are now putting out, Twitter things and announcements of how great Abbott is.
Taking pictures with them.
Yeah, it's just, it's mind-boggling to just see just such a amazing turn of mindset for, changing messages from we're going to get in there and say no to Abbott to basically just checking off every agenda item he had this year. I mean, before the session started, he did an event and he laid out all his priorities, one by one. And pretty much that's how our session went was, let's go. One of the things they always would say when an Abbott item came up was, let's go, and every time. Basically they just went through Abbott's agenda and checked off everything, school choice, fake parental rights, there's all kinds of them that they just went through and they just got it done. I mean, he was a big winner as far as getting a globalist agenda placed down here in Texas. So, I don't know, discouraging when you see that. I don't know what you do with that.
He was the one, everybody goes back to COVID. DeSantis did not close Florida. DeSantis did not have mask rules in Florida, that kind of thing. Abbott did. Abbott locked down, closed down everything. I mean, it was bad. And that's why we had such a campaign against him. And that's how the grassroots grew and became so strong, as we were all united in this Fire Abbott campaign. No matter where you were in the state, if you knew that person was with you if they were Fire Abbott. And now it's really wild to see. And then we see so many people who were on these campaigns also, people like us, groups like us, individuals. And then they're still following these people that they put into office because they have like this friendship and loyalty to them. Right. And they're not holding their feet to the fire. And, one of the things that I remember, 2 reps in particular, I don't know if I should name them or not, but 2 reps, I'll just say their names. Shelley Luther and Andy Hopper both said, you hold us accountable when we get there. You hold us accountable. Well, when we did, they blocked us on social media.
Wow.
They stopped talking to us, and they didn't like it. And so
they're so predictable.
Yeah. It's really discouraging, and it's hard to see. And it's hard to see these people just stay, oh yeah, go Shelley, go Andy, after they folded. Yeah, it's hard to see that.
So you bring up an interesting point that I want to sort of like dig deeper into this, because I've experienced sort of the same thing. So a lot of these grassroots groups grew out of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. I know you were into like the vaccine injuries and stuff prior to COVID, but a lot of grassroots organizations like ours kind of were birthed, conservative ladies, right before COVID, but COVID really brought it to what it is, right?
We actually didn't start until after COVID as well. We just were all individually on doing our own thing before that. Yeah.
But would you say, like, during that time of 21, 22, most grassroots conservatives were all like medical freedom, follow the Constitution, keep government open, all of those things, education freedom as well, which doesn't mean the government giving you a handout. We were all kind of on the same page with that. And over time, it seems like a lot of these grassroots conservatives, they either fizzled away if they weren't funded by some larger organization or big donor, they kind of fizzled away because that's not sustainable, right? I mean, what we do it because we're really passionate, but there's really not money in it. Or you have these other larger groups that are heavily funded by either parent organizations, or I think they've got, large donors that donate to them. But I believe, and this is what I'm curious if you guys think I'm onto something here, or if you have other theories about this, but I think that those donation comes with strings attached. And we're going to give you a donation of $50,000, but we want you to support this bill or this agenda or this candidate, whatever that is. What do you think about that?
Undeniably, they come with strings attached. I mean, I've heard it firsthand that I have to do this because of this.
Oh, it happened with us. Somebody was going to give us a donation to send out a voter's guide to our county. And when we wouldn't put a specific person on the voter's guide, the money was pulled. And we refused, we wouldn't do it. And, so, I mean, and that's one instance that we know personally for sure happened, but we're also seeing grassroots groups with leaders that we know feel like us. They don't necessarily support this other agenda, but they're quiet. They don't say anything.
Yeah.
They don't want to get blackballed, maybe.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. Go ahead, Joy.
No, go ahead, Zach.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are also seeing some of these groups will have people join their board who do support the governor's agenda. And you'll see the board begin to turn in the direction that these individuals want it to go in. So you have a donation being given with strings attached, and then you have people joining the group on their board that are going to ensure that the agenda gets enacted.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, we recently have talked to some people that we've heard that there's a friendly kind of truce between some of the funding organizations and Abbott, and which kind of plays in and explains kind of what we're seeing at this point, where
until 2030.
Until 2030, I guess, is what supposedly the truce is for. Friendly. That's a long time. That's 2 full sessions of Abbott pretty much getting what he wants done. Wow. So.
And for those who don't know, Abbott is a member of the World Economic Forum. So go look it up. I'm not making that up. I'm not, that's not conspiracy theory. It is a thing. And so it's concerning. Yeah.
I think also that this is a good point to make about, it's similar to a lot of our audiences in Washington. So I'll kind of compare this to former Governor Jay Inslee or current Governor Bob Ferguson. When it comes time for these people to run for re-election, they do not get challenged by a Democrat because there's so much money involved for the incumbent, not to mention there's so much political risk for someone to challenge an incumbent. This is kind of the issue that you have with Abbott. He has, I think, probably an extremely substantial war chest, and it would be political suicide for any other Republican to actually try to challenge him. So in your next election, you're going to have governor up against a bunch of Democrats, and I imagine it's like like Florida is now, where the number of Republican registered voters is so much higher that you're almost assuredly going to get the Republican for the governor. But when push comes to shove, he's really no better. And, he is bringing in, as you said, this global agenda, which, we're seeing at a federal level, we're seeing it all over the country, where the Republicans are helping bring in this global agenda.
And I think in some case, and let me finish speaking before you make a judgment on what I'm saying. In some case, it's worse when the Republicans are in, because they're able to slide this stuff in and everybody thinks, oh, it's fine because the Republican's doing it. Whereas if a Democrat was trying to make these things happen, people would, in Texas, people would, whoa, put the brakes on, what's happening? But, oh no, but it's fine. It's fine. Oh, what is it? The Digital Accountability Act or whatever. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Because the Republicans, they're just trying to protect the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, school choice. They just want to fund that little Baptist school down on the corner,
Yeah.
So I think that's,
Yeah,
it's more dangerous.
These things couldn't happen really under a Democrat, because if they were trying to do a school choice under a Democrat, everybody would know that it was Obamacare for education, which it is. It talks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It has all the traits of that: redistribution, control, everything. But since Republicans were pushing it, it's like you said, we'll get the.
Imagine if Beto was our governor during COVID and said, yeah, we're going to close your schools, we're going to mask you up, and we're going to lock you down. I mean, all the red-blooded Texans would have been in their trucks with their guns, and they would have said, no, I don't think we're going to do that.
Right. I mean, that's a really good point. And I think we have the same sort of thing going on here in Florida. And I talk to, my neighbors and people in my community all the time who have no idea the kinds of policies that the legislature would like to pass, and fortunately we have DeSantis right now, but they don't know what's going on in the legislature. They don't understand the rhino problem that we have, just the average citizen, because they're just not plugged in. And so they think that the Republicans are the good guys. And so if they're passing laws, they must be good laws.
Yes.
Yeah. Makes it especially dangerous when you have 4-year reputation conservatives going into office and telling everybody that all this stuff is just A-okay. It's much more dangerous than it would be even if just the rhinos here, we have, 2 sections of conservatives or Republicans. So it's more dangerous when the more right-wing conservatives are saying the things that they shouldn't be.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys about I want to kind of go into a little bit more on Abbott's push for property tax abolishment or whatever his plan is. Is this his 11th or 12th? Is this his 3rd term as governor?
Yeah, he's got
3rd.
Running for 4th.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think like DeSantis has been really kind of leading the charge on abolishing property taxes, and it's kind of picking up steam around the country. And now Abbott's getting in on it, and he's talking about doing it too. This is his 3rd term. Why? I mean, if he likes this idea so much, why hasn't he done it yet?
That's a great question. He talks about it. He's talked about it for 10 years too.
He's talked about it for 10 years. Oh,
yes,
okay.
Every time he runs, he talks about it. Yes.
Oh.
In fact, there's some text that people, some Twitter, that's very direct about it too, about eliminating it, basically saying taxation is theft in his own way. Right? Property taxation is theft in his own way. But the plan that they've put forth so far, to me, is more of a relief. They started using the word relief instead of eliminate again, even though they talked in the prior sessions really strongly about eliminating. Everybody's language has changed to be under a relief banner now instead.
Including the conservatives.
Yeah, right. So, yeah.
Do the Republicans?
If he wanted to get that done, if he wanted property tax to be completely done away with, he could have made it part of the special session And there was
You
just
can
not
still do
enough
that,
power.
I think, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Are they all on the same page about what this property tax reform would look like?
I don't think so. I think
They're all
it's-
just chasing
No.
their tails, making
Well,
noise.
they have a
on-
5 or 6 point plan that they put out, and they're all signing it. And, you know, it's a big card. They go and they get in front of people and they sign off and say, yay. Dan Patrick has come out with his own version yesterday. That's our lieutenant governor, by the way. And his is kind of just a redo of what we actually have kind of done. His is just to, lower the exemption age from 65 to 55. I guess putting the burden, you know, on the younger group of people. And the same thing we do every so often, every session now, we raise the exemption. And I think he wants to add another 40,000 to the exemption side of the equation. So it's pretty much a status quo plan. I'm really not sure what's going on with that. Are they just playing, you know, good cop, bad cop? I don't really know what's going on with that one. But
So we're against taxes, right? Taxation is theft, right? But the way that they're talking about lowering taxes is taking away from local government and putting it on the state. And so it's concerning about the way that it's all very complicated and convoluted, because if you say, well, this isn't good, people say, well, what do you mean? You're for taxes then? It's like, well, no. But you know, it's hard to kind of explain and wrap your head around what's going on. But it's very concerning for local governments, especially like the small rural towns. You know, we're from a rural area. Most of Texas is rural, you know, and so it's concerning.
well, it's already a little bit of a bait and switch, I guess, because if you think about, you know, we've been for 10 years talking about eliminate property tax. It's a simple idea. You eliminate them. And so then you don't have to have, you know, now we're into an idea of reforming property tax. So when you're reforming, then you have a new process or a new plan that you have to kind of figure out what the heck they're talking about. And then from there, I mean, there's a lot of, just like school choice, for example, you know, they had a great vision of it, but it wasn't at all what, you know, ended up with it. So you got to look at the details when you start getting into reform instead of eliminate.
I think what we have to do is we have to think, okay, what we have right now is not good. It's really, really bad. But the government is not on our side. So why would they want to just suddenly make it better for us?
There you go.
You know what I mean?
That is a really critical point that I hope people understand. And I'm going to repeat what she just said, because you need it like on a t-shirt or something. The government is not on our side. They really aren't, you guys. And so the government is never trying to make things easier or better or more free for we, the people. The government is always looking out for the government, trying to give themselves more power and more money.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
what are they up to? That's what you always have to ask.
Yeah.
exactly. What is in it for the government?
Right.
Well, it'll be interesting, I think, to watch what happens with this property tax. I'm really curious about what they're going to do here in Florida. I have a feeling it's going to be like this internal fighting thing amongst the Republicans. And I think they're going to try to undermine DeSantis as much as possible in the 2026 session. So, but it sounds like Abbott has brought in, you know, for the most part, all of the Republicans into his camp. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. D Davis is saying here in the chat, let's face it, there is nowhere to hide anymore. And yes, that is true. Now there are some states that are currently safer and more free and more livable than others. But the bottom line is this agenda is coming for all 50 states. It's already here. And unless there's, I mean, I don't know. You know, I tell my husband every day, I'm like, ammo, more firearms, more food, more water,
More land.
Let's just be
Animal,
prepared.
where to farm.
More land.
Get some chickens.
And so I think like I'm starting to get to that point where it's like, look out for your family, prepare your family above all. And then if you have extra left to give and time left over, then get involved in fighting the government. But secure your family first and foremost. One of the things for Texas that Representative Harrison, the only no vote on the App Store Accountability Act, he was calling for a special session and obviously did not get it. I want to talk about this law because it's going to take effect on January 1st. And you guys know I've been on my soapbox about this particular bill since I heard about it. And I think it kind of went under the radar in Texas until way after the fact. Am I right?
I literally, I don't know if you can see that. I literally just wrote quietly passed as you were talking about that. Yeah, we didn't have any clue that it was happening.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because as I've been down in this rabbit hole with this policy, so the Digital Childhood Alliance, so Idaho State Senator Brian Lenny, I've been sharing some of his Substacks because he has like really gone down the rabbit hole to find out their funding and like putting all the pieces together. And actually, he's going to do a podcast with me on Tuesday next week. So I'm super excited about that. The Digital Childhood Alliance came online in January of this year. They are funded by Meta, of course, because the digital or the App Store bill puts all of the responsibility at the App Store level and gets Meta and all the apps off the hook. So they're funded by Meta. And what they've done is they've created this coalition of parent groups who have been writing op-eds and writing letters to representatives in Utah and Texas and Louisiana. And now, obviously at a federal level, because it's a federal bill, they've been doing this all year long. Like I've been going back and like these op-eds were flying from parent groups back at the beginning of the year. And this is exactly the kind of thing that like we were talking about earlier in this video is you have these big, well-funded organizations like the Digital Childhood Alliance who go and gather up these kind of more grassroots groups, pitch them a bill, and most of these people won't actually take the time to read the bill. They'll just see the talking points and say, oh, this sounds good. Yeah, I can write an op-ed about that. Yeah, I can ask my representatives to sponsor this bill. And it looks like that's exactly what happened in Texas. And I think it's one of the things I think is interesting is how quietly it got passed. Like you didn't hear from any of these it's like they knew what they were doing was bad. Mm-hmm. Otherwise they would have been like posting about it on social media. Hey guys, today we passed this and it's going to protect kids and empower parents. They think they know it's bad because they didn't make any noise about it.
Right.
Same strategy here with the Parental Rights Amendment. They tried to do that, but it did gain some traction as far as pushback, but it just slipped out of the Senate. Oops, and we were like, what is this? But
yeah.
How did it get like after it passed out of the Senate, did somebody just stumble upon it, or how did it become public knowledge?
That's a good question.
Don't know.
I can't remember. I know that we covered it in our meeting like a week later. Zach did a great speech on it, and then they changed the language on it, so it got enough. I don't know. I can't speculate on exactly what happened, but they changed the language on it for some reason.
So I know that the App Store bill, which is, in my opinion, it's a gateway to digital ID, and someone posted in the chat on YouTube, flock cameras are everywhere now.
They are.
And yeah, I don't know if you guys have them in Texas, but I'm wondering if this is Kid City 1985. I wonder if you're in Washington, because I know there's a big story coming out of Spokane, Washington about the flock cameras.
Can you tell me? I'm sorry, I don't know what flock cameras are. Can you tell me what flock cameras are?
Yeah, they're cameras that are around the city that take license plate information and gather, video data. They're proposed as a public safety mechanism. I can't think of the word there that I want, but that's kind of what they're pitched as, is they enhance public safety and they give more resources to law enforcement. But really,
they are all over Texas in the larger cities.
They're also outside of the larger cities too, though. I know for a fact you've got them even in small town, West Texas, East Texas. Oh, wow. They're definitely everywhere.
I mean, I know Sherman. I don't know if you would consider Sherman a bigger town, but Sherman has what, 10,000 people, something like that. 40,000 people, and it has them all over. So
yeah.
Wow.
That's an
we have them here in Florida too.
Yeah,
and I think that's another case similar to what they're doing with these tech bills that they're talking as protecting children. They slide them in with under the guise of public safety, reducing crime, protecting children. And so nobody really bats an eye. Nobody asks questions about it. And before you know it, we have this digital surveillance system all over our cities. Obviously our phones, our devices are all listening to us. And I think people have become really numb to it. And that's the thing with this App Store app is, so what, for people that are watching that don't know about it, I'll just give a quick synopsis is, so everyone would have to provide age verification data to download an app in the app stores. Every American. Children would have to provide age verification ID, and the parent would have to consent for that while also providing age verification ID. And so this isn't just something that empowers parents, protecting children. This is something where you're giving your ID in order to download the Bible app or, your Canvas app for school. And there's nothing would be off limits there. It's every single app. And it does nothing to protect children from the dangers that are inside the apps. The apps themselves don't have to do anything differently. And people hear about this and they kind of think, well, that's no big deal. Providing my data to, protect my kid and download apps, no big deal. It's just this mission creep of, okay, you might think that's not a big deal for that. But then when they want to do the next thing,
right,
you're not going to ask any questions and they're just going to keep creeping along.
Yeah.
And before
boiling
you know
the
it,
frog. Yeah, it's boiling the frog.
Boiling a frog. Exactly.
Yeah.
What the problem on our end becomes is when we push back against this, the immediate response has been and will continue to be, well, you don't want to protect children from accessing pornography?
Right.
No, we want to protect children from accessing pornography. We don't want any kid having access to it. We also don't want a digital ID. And this is a step closer to that. And there's no way to undo this once it's done. Right. The step is taken, and now we're going to have to deal with it. I think when I look at this as a pastor, my encouragement would be parent your kid. We have a teenage daughter. She doesn't have a cell phone. There'll come a day soon when she does, but when she gets a cell phone, there's going to be very limited use to it. Well, what about safety and little kids need it? Get a flip phone. Can't access the internet on it. There's a workaround. You don't give your kid free access to a computer and the internet. You don't give them free access to a cell phone. That's dumb. Parent your child. Don't look at the government. Be the father of your kid. You do it. You be mom and dad. That's what God's giving you the responsibility to do.
And that's absolutely right. Like, why are we saying, it boggles my mind how some of these people can say, we don't co-parent with the government. And then in the next breath, oh, could you please give us a mandate so that our kids aren't on social media? Like, you're not required to give your kid a cell phone. You're not required to give them a smartphone. Like you said, get them a flip phone where they don't have access to that. And yeah, I get it. Like parenting in the digital age is very difficult. But I think one thing that probably our generation of parents has learned is how dangerous and how many problems come with giving kids digital tools at a young age. And so learn from us. Don't give kids the phones. Keep them off of social media. I mean, I know that like if they go to public schools, especially, they're getting the Chromebooks and all of these things, but you can, as the parent, control a lot of this to a large degree. And that is our job to do it. We are required to do the hard things as parents. That's our job.
Yeah. And you can do a lot of restrictions on these phones. I mean, our son went off to college and he still had restrictions on his phone. So like you can keep restrictions. He doesn't now. He's 20. At some point you have to trust the kid to do what you taught them to do. But our 15-year-old, I mean, there's a lot of restrictions on there, and he does not have a browser on his phone. He cannot just get on the internet. He is only allowed certain apps, and those are approved through me, but I've never had to give any kind of my information in order to put a block. I'm just the parent on the phone, and right. with a code. And so, I mean, can some kids get through that? Sure. I'm sure that happens, but we don't want to, lock down the whole everything because there are a few kids who can get through that. I mean, you just can't do.
Yeah.
This will go along with that very thing. There's still going to be things out there as mom and dad that you have to watch out for those little ones. Games like Roblox and Minecraft that are specifically targeted by pedophiles. I don't know if I can say that word and it's not get censored, but by predators, they're still on those games and they're still targeting kids. And just because you have an ID for your child doesn't mean that they won't be targeted. They will. So you're going to have to parent your child no matter what. You had them, and God has ordained you to be a mom and a dad. So let's go do it. Let's go parent our kids. Got to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have you guys happened to have heard of any, like what this is going to look like in rolling out on come January 1st when it hits when all of a sudden you have to provide information to, to download apps? Brian and Joy are having some issues with their sound, but Zach, have you heard anything?
No, not on my end. They've been as quiet as church mice about this. They, in the passing of it and then what it's going to look like when it's implemented, they're not talking about it. I think that they know there's going to be a lot of pushback. I shared with you, I think, offline, I've been paying attention to it because I know the moment that this becomes public, I'm going to get questions from church members. Is this the mark of the beast? Is this the mark of the beast?
Right.
No, if you go read Revelation 13, 16 through the end of the chapter, the mark of the beast is taken in worship of the beast to be part of that whole entire government system as allegiance stand. That's not what this is, and we're not saying it is. But I know that those questions are going to come, so I want to know something about it. But they have said nothing at all that I have heard about how they're going to go about doing this. Joy and Brian may have heard something in their implementation of this and what it'll look like, but on my end, I haven't.
Interesting. And I think, there's so much going on that we're hearing about with digital ID around the world and here in America at a state level to federal level that I think people are really getting sort of hyper aware of the whole digital ID and having those types of questions. And I think, a lot of people maybe don't know their Bible well enough to know, what the mark of the beast actually is. And so they hear these things and they're like, oh my gosh, end times. And, maybe it's end times. It's certainly, we're certainly continuing to build the bricks for that wall, that end time wall. but I think we have a long way to go. I think things are going to get extremely uncomfortable as it comes to government surveillance and government overreach. I think it will apply to speech, to purchasing. Oops, you bought, you had your fill of Cheez-Its this week, Julie Barrett. So you are not allowed to buy any more Cheez-Its until next month.
Except I think Cheez-Its will be fine. I think it'll be the beef or the eggs.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. Well, I just came from Publix before we did this live stream, and Cheez-Its are BOGO, so I was stocking up before the BOGO changes tomorrow. I love Cheez-Its.
The struggle is real. No, so people, this is not the mark of the beast. This is practice. This is just the warm up. The real game is yet to come.
And I think it's important to just reiterate to people that while this applies to the App Store, it's just a step. It's just like Joy said, it's just that boiling the frog. And we don't go backwards from here. We only move forward, and we only see this expand into other areas. And so that is definitely something to expect. Now, the App Store Accountability Act passed in Texas, passed in Utah, and in Louisiana. And there's a federal bill that had a hearing last week. I don't know if you guys saw that, but there were 19 bills that are pitched as protecting children online. About half of them, I would say, are extremely concerning as far as building that digital ID infrastructure. And the fact that they already got a hearing in the House tells me that they will be moving forward, probably pretty quickly. And that scares me because it applies to all of us. There's no escaping it. There's no running to Florida or Texas or Tennessee or wherever you might go.
Do you know what to expect on the first stages of this? Because I know our bill, it goes effective like January 1st, 2026. Do you think we're going to wake up that next day and on the Apple phones they're going to be asking for our IDs? Or I'm just curious.
Well, that's what Zach and I were talking about when you guys were working on your technical difficulties, and he didn't know. But so I know that there are already lawsuits over it, and I don't know if when there's, I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know if there are lawsuits in place. Does that put, and I'll have to look this up because now I'm getting curious. If there are lawsuits, maybe the judge puts I forget the legal term for it, but puts a pause on the law. That would be my suspicion, is that's what's going to happen. That's my hope anyway, because I think these lawsuits have a very good chance of being upheld in court.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to find out about those so that we can help support them however we can possibly, even if it's just get the word out, to support that as much as we can, or if it finances, whatever needs to be done to help support that.
Yeah, I think if you could, and I'd be happy to offline get you some information on this, but if you could maybe even get the information on the lawsuits and put out some op-eds to some Texas paper out, I don't think any of them actually send actual paper anymore, but you know what I mean. And just to alert citizens, because my guess is that probably a lot of Texans don't even know that the App Store bill passed and that it's going to be law that's supposed to take effect in January. So even just like being able to get that out there and your position on it, and maybe, citing the lawsuit and siding with the lawsuit, supporting it. And even the Rep Harrison, I know he's got some good content on that on X that, maybe you could pull some quotes from him. But I think the thing about the op-eds that's powerful is a lot of people, the older voting bloc, the boomers, they still, they get those hard copies, and they, I think have online subscriptions to stuff like that. So it is a good place to put opinion pieces like that and sort of help get that messaging out there.
Yeah. Definitely. We'll be looking into that more. Like we said, it passed very suddenly. And like, I think we just woke up one day and Brian Harrison posted something about, hey, Texas, did you know this happened? We're like, wait, what? Had no clue it was so quiet. And like you said, it seems like they would have been proud. These groups that are supporting it, you would think they would be, normally, like if we see something going through that we like or that we don't like, whatever it is, we're like, hey, call your rep, call your senator and have them vote for this. Nothing. Silence.
Nothing. Yeah, it's interesting that I want to say it wasn't until maybe the lawsuits were in October, because you're the one that put it, Joy, you put it on my radar because you sent me that X post. I think it was Vigilant Fox on X, put out a short video on it. And that's when I think it started gaining awareness. And I just want to let you know, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the chairwoman for the Digital Childhood Alliance has blocked me on X.
I saw
a preemptive block. I've never engaged with her. I've never retweeted her. Nothing. I've also been blocked by. I know, and I've also been blocked by Parental Rights Florida, which is just amazing. Another preemptive block. I've never engaged with them.
Huh. And it's so weird. Like, you're a conservative mother concerned about protecting your children and all children, but they're blocking you. They're not blocking Democrats or whatever. They're blocking you. They're blocking us.
They don't block the LGBTQ people that want to trans kids.
Right.
Because they can defend they have an argument against that. But when I say, here are some problems with your bill, they don't want to fix them.
No.
So they just want to discredit me. Or shut me up. And when you try to shut me up, it just makes me get louder. So,
right. Well, it was like with the school choice thing. They just tried to say that we were with the Democrats. Like, no, we're not with the Democrats. We're not. You're misunderstanding here. We both are against it, but we're against it for very different reasons.
Right.
So,
well, as we wrap up here, I want to know what's on your agenda. What's next for Grayson County Conservatives?
Gosh. We are kind of trying to figure that out. We have spent our entirety as a group supporting candidates and really thought that was going to be the way to save Texas. That literally was a hashtag for us for a long time, was let's get these candidates in, let's do the best that we can. And that is not looking like the way, sadly. They folded like cheap suits. And so I think we're trying to kind of figure out where we are. We definitely want to inform everyone out there on what's going on. It's like sometimes, we see this train wreck coming. There's no way we can stop the train, but at least we can yell at a few people to get out of the way.
Right.
So
it's a tough dilemma because people want solutions. And so they get a lot of hope in people again, new reps that might be running. So, I mean, we're trained to go support a rep and send them up there and, vet them, make sure they're going to do what they say. But when you spend 4 years doing that and they go up there and they do pretty much the opposite of what they said for 4 years, you push the reset button and you go, I don't know, how do we
reevaluate?
How do you reevaluate what role you do? I don't know.
Pray, and pray. 1 Timothy 2:14. We need to pray for our representatives. They're in the devil's den where they are, and we need to be consistently lifting them up while also holding them accountable and paying attention to what they're doing. And remember, like Joy said, the government's not here to help. The things that they're doing, they really need to take a step back and undo what they've done instead of continuing to pass laws. So accountability is where we need to go, but pray for them communicate what we want with them, that's going to be a tall order. Don't give up. Stay at it. We're fighting
and even,
along.
re-strategizing doesn't mean giving up, right? So it's like,
not at all.
How can we be the most effective? What does God want us to be doing with our talents and our voice and the platforms that He's given us? I wanted to share when I was in DC we did a day of advocacy on Thursday, and so we went up on Capitol Hill. We met with 6 different lawmakers, and I'd never walked through the halls of Congress before. Never met with a lawmaker in their office in Washington, D.C. And so it was an interesting experience. And, I realized it just kind of made it so real, just how powerful the political machine really is. And you have all these Congress people, and when you said, you were supporting these representatives, I know you're talking about at a state level, but we support it at a state level and even a congressional level. And they make all these promises on the campaign trail. I'm going to go to DC and I'm going to fight for this and I'm going to do this. And it's like, you go to DC and you're like a small fish in a big pond. You have zero, all you are is a vote. You're not going to pass bills. I mean, just hearing from some of the lawmakers that we met with that would say things like, well, I don't think that the caucus has an appetite for whatever policy, right? And it was just sad because you saw up close with how dysfunctional our government is and how it doesn't work for the people, because everybody that's there has their political agenda that's not to serve the people. And so similarly, as you guys were kind of reevaluating what's next for us and what does that look like? So, I mean, we're not going away, that's for sure. But how do we most effectively, and the first priority for all of us, I think I feel safe saying, is to win souls for the kingdom.
Absolutely.
And do our part to make heaven crowded and bring people to Jesus Christ. All this politics stuff is just temporary. But we do want to be a voice for truth and light in a very dark world, and it's going to continue to get darker. So we're going to need to, let our little lights shine as bright as we possibly can.
That's right.
So
I mean, education is always one thing that we can always do. It's a matter of whether you direct that education into supporting candidates or, opposing candidates, or, that's kind of, I guess, what I was trying to say is that it's probably more about education going forward and making sure people are aware of what's going on.
From a kingdom perspective, we know that we're fighting a long defeat, but at the same time, our goal is not to try to take over our government and turn it into a theocracy. What we need to do is hand our children a baton cleanly, to use a track reference, that is sustainable for them. And educating is priority number one. Communicating with people like we're doing here and letting them know this is what the globalist agenda is doing in Texas. The flock cameras, I'm glad you brought that up. I've known about that for a couple of months, but people don't know that. They don't know that they're being surveilled. The App Store Accountability Act, they don't know. And so January 1st, it supposedly is going to take effect. They need to know that that's on the docket. And once they have the information, then they can do something with it. So I think exposing everything that's there, bringing what's done in the dark into the light is a good priority to have, and a strategy we'll continue to press forward with.
Yeah. That's a good word to end on. I think that's a great note to kind of tie this up. You guys are awesome. I so appreciate being in this battle with you and sharing the good things and the discouragements, and it's really helpful. And I think it's, God is good. He gives us partners to, keep lifting each other up so that we don't give up. And so if you're watching, please find your tribe, and because that will keep you going. And we're going to keep, I think we've all made it clear, we're going to keep educating and exposing what government is doing and how it impacts all of us and all of you. And we're doing this podcast every month. It's a new monthly feature. Next month, we're going to have a picture for our thumbnail of Joy and Brian and Zach.
Sorry.
They're on record now. They've got to do it. And so
that's going to happen.
It's going to happen. So the second Wednesday of every month is when you will find us live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. So for January, that'll be January 14th. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of new things to talk about, because will Texas be in session yet?
No. No, we go every 2 years. So
okay.
We're off next year. Phew.
Okay. Well, I'll have a lot for us to talk about, and I'm sure there will be things going on in Texas as you guys ramp up for the 2026 elections, and the midterms will be sort of, I think a lot of candidates will be coming out of the gate in January. So it'll be a good podcast. January 14th, 11 a.m. Central Time. That's noon for me. So thanks you guys for joining us. We hope to see you again next month. We wish you all a Merry Christmas, and we hope you will join us again next month. Go find the Grayson County Conservatives is it GraysonCountyConservatives.com?
GraysonCountyConservatives.com.
Awesome. GraysonCountyConservatives.com, especially if you are anywhere in Texas, you want to link up with these guys. Take care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.